Why the right relationship won't make you happy. We're going to dive into this conversation today. You think the right person will finally make you happy? You're not alone. Most people believe that. But I'm here to tell you it doesn't work that way. And if you keep chasing that fantasy, you're going to miss out on the real magic of a relationship. It fascinates me. I've heard things like, well, if we love each other, it will magically work out. Now, I'm adding the magically work out as if magic fairy dust makes things work out. Or when you meet someone who isn't quite aligned with you, you do well, you just never know because you just never know if something's going to work out. But I'm here to say it's all these fantasies, all these stories, these things we've heard throughout our life that make us believe that when we're in the right relationship, we're going to be happier. In fact, there's studies that say people who are in relationship are the happiest of people. Is that really true? That they're more happy than a lot of singles? I can tell you there are a lot of people who are not in relationship who are immensely happy. So I want to share with you, this video was birthed from something that happened in my childhood. See, when I was growing up, I'm a tail end baby boomer Gen Xer. When I was growing up, I believed in this narrative or I was told this script was after high school, go to college, get a job, meet a girl, get married, buy a house, start a family. And if it was a woman, it would be the meet the guy kind of thing. Okay. That was the blueprint I was raised with, that if we had all of these pieces in place, I would be really happy. And well, I met a fantastic woman and we got married and we had 2 children together. The fact of the matter is I barely knew myself. I barely knew how to be in relationship. In fact, I was pretty much a kind of a crappy husband to some degree because I was an unconscious human being following this narrative, this script of go to college, get a job, meet someone, get married, buy a house, and start a family. And that didn't lead to happiness. So that's where this video was birthed to begin with. But then let's face what society tells us that, to feel complete, whether it's pop culture, fairy tales, or the Disney stories, the Disney movies have perpetuated this narrative that when you find your prince or you get your princess, somehow you're going to be magically happier. In fact, I told you about my narrative of go to college, get a job, meet someone, get a job, go to college, get a job, meet someone, buy a house, start a family. Well, prior to meeting my now ex-wife, I was addicted to a show called Heart to Heart. Does anyone remember that show? Came out in 1979 with Robert Wagner and Stephanie Powers. I watched this show well before I met my wife, and I thought that was the perfect relationship. They loved each other immensely. They were romantic to each other. They worked as a team together. Of course, they were solving crime all the time. By the way, wouldn't you figure it out after a while when you have the homicide directives or detective's phone number on your speed dial? Something's wrong in your life. But these pop culture references, these childhood Disney and such like that has perpetuated that when you're meet the right relationship, you're going to be happy. The flawed belief is once I find them, I'm happy, secure, wanted, and chosen. And yet, look at how many people get divorced. First marriages. How many people get divorced second and third marriages? Why is the dating marketplace such a miserable place? It's because something is really missing. Why are people aren't ready for love? Enter into something known as self-love deficit. Someone write that down, self-love deficit. People crave intimacy, but they fear vulnerability. They want connection, but they lack emotional responsibility. Let me repeat that. They crave some intimacy. People in the dating marketplace are really craving a connection with another human being, but they lack the skills, the tools to be vulnerable. And when I say skills or tools to be vulnerable, you would think, oh, this should just be natural. But the reality is many of us are wearing a mask. We've got walls up, we've got armor, and the tools are to take them down so we can actually be vulnerable with another human being. Genuine intimacy means into me see. I can't remember who coined it. I know I heard it from Esther Perel, intimacy, but I don't think she coined that. Maybe she did. Intimacy, that place of, you look at, I am exposed and you get to see me. We have a self-love deficit. And again, most people want connection, but they lack the tools, the emotional responsibility to be in relationship. They don't understand the mechanics of being in a healthy, happy relationship. If you haven't read the book by the Gottmans, The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work, let's replace the word marriage with relationship. By the way, all the books I recommend are in the Jonathan Recommend books. Why do we need to read this? So we can understand the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship. Add to that the book. By the way, everybody should be reading this book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships, The 5 Keys to Mindful Loving by David Rico. We human beings are really not good at this. I mean, if you've reached, listen, if you reached your 50s, 60s, or 70s, it's imperative that you look backwards and notice that you are the common denominator in all of your relationship experiences. And look, I get it. Many of you have found yourself in toxic relationships. Some of you found yourself in narcissistic, abusive relationships. And God forbid you found yourself in a genuinely physically abusive relationship. And I recognize if you have to call a doctor, an attorney, or a policeman for your relationship, you need help. There is no doubt about it. But for the most part, most human beings find themselves in garden variety, immature, emotionally, dysfunctional relationships. And I think it starts with a lack of self-love. In fact, I think people have forgotten to love themselves. And I have my notes here, so allow me to share real quick. But they stay in relationships that hurt because they're afraid to be alone. They stay in relationships that are hurting because they're afraid to be alone. They apologize for things, or I'm going to do it in the second person. You apologize for things you don't need to be sorry for, like your feelings or needs don't matter. How many times have you found yourself, having, sadly, and please forgive this narrative, duct tape over your mouth because you're afraid to speak your truth. You're afraid to ask for your needs in relationship. One of the self-love principles, and by the way, if you haven't read my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, Spiritual Work, there's a link below to get a copy of my book. One of the principles in my book is that, or one of the fundamental principles is that when we love ourselves, we begin to be capable of being in a relationship. It's not just about readiness, it's capacity to be in a relationship. We beat ourselves up. You beat yourself over, you beat yourself up over things you've already learned from. You put everyone else first and then secretly resent it. You tolerate disrespect because part of you thinks that that's all you deserve. I want to repeat that. You tolerate disrespect because part of you thinks that's all you deserve. Isn't that sad that people find themselves in those kind of circumstances, forgetting to love yourself? And in a moment, I'll share some self-love practices that might help you shift this narrative. But the right relationship won't fix your abandonment wounds. Only you can. I just brought up abandonment wounds. Why? Because the vast majority of human beings suffer from the emotional health wound is I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not likable. And dating and relationships trigger this like nobody's business. And abandonment and rejection are the primary wounds most everybody is carrying inside them to some degree. And so why I'm pointing this out is because healing inner child is an important aspect of a self-love practice. Let me repeat that. Healing the inner child. If you haven't read the book, and I'm going to tell you something, this book might take you a year to complete. It's called The Hoffman Process by Tim Lawrence. Again, all the books I recommend are in the Jonathan Recommend books. Why I'm sharing this with you, this is a deep dive into healing your parental wounds or your primary caretaker in your life. that might cause you to have negative patterns and limiting beliefs in your life. Many of us are carrying, and by the way, you didn't have to have genuine, emotion, severe emotional or physical trauma to have a wound. Do you know, I had a wound from childhood that I uncovered during one of my therapy sessions where my mother briefly left me. Now, I was a 3-year-old child, and I remember screaming, "Where's mommy? Where's mommy? Where's mommy?" I have a vivid memory of this. And when I asked her about it years later, she said I was 15 feet away. And she witnessed me crying. She let me cry for quite some time, which was, I don't know if that's abuse on her part, but she was like, I kept screaming, "Where's mommy? Where's mommy? Where's mommy?" And she was 15, 20 feet away sitting with friends. But to a child, that can cause an impact. The fact that I can even remember this. So it could be as simple as something like that, that could implant a deep-seated wound within us. And why I'm recommending reading these books, because the right relationship won't make you happy. The truth about healthy relationships, a great relationship reflects the love you already hold on to within yourself. It amplifies your wholeness, not patches your brokenness. Bump, 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 bump. Let me read that one more time. A great relationship reflects the love you already hold. It amplifies your wholeness, not patches your brokenness. I am guilty of what I'm about to share. I have oftentimes suckled on the nipple of, I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. I kind of recognize the reason why I wrote a book about self-love, because that's one of the deficits I've had in my life for a very long time. Again, it started with that blueprint from my parents. It got amplified by the Disney and pop culture and television shows growing up. You see, healthy love is mutual recognition, not rescue. Breathe that in. Breathe that in for a second. Healthy love is mutual recognition, not rescue. I'm going to share something with you as a dating and relationship coach. And by the way, if you want to connect with me, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. I would venture to say many of the women who come to me for support and help, it's because they feel like a relationship will make them whole. And I get that we all can subscribe to life is better with company. I totally get that. Well, certainly the right company. But even if you're in the right relationship, it won't make you happy if you're not right within yourself. Healthy love is mutual recognition, not rescue. And emotional safety can't be outsourced. It starts within you. Emotional safety can't be outsourced. We have to, this is the fundamental principle of self-love, is stepping into your sovereignty, your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-confidence, your self-reliance, your self-discipline, all of those juicy self-words. And I recognize many of you have had painful relationships in the past. It can make you think that you don't even want a relationship. Well, if that has happened to you, if any of you right now have found yourself in an unhealthy relationship in the past and you're carrying any hurt, any pain, this is the time to dive into inner healing work. Now, it starts with inner child work. But then it requires unpacking our adult relationships. Many of us have had divorces. If you're over 45 years old in the single marketplace, you are most likely divorced. Roughly 75% of singles in the dating marketplace are divorced. And divorce, as I repeatedly say, it's the unraveling of the tapestry of our life with another human being. And it doesn't matter if you were together a year and a half or 35 and a half years. That unraveling of your enmeshed life with another person absolutely requires some unpacking, some healing. Excuse me. Because many of us still find ourselves attached to someone we deeply cared for. And that is not an unhealthy thing per se, to be attached to someone you deeply care for. Sometimes when those relationship ends, there's this broad opening, I mean, I think even Tom Cruise said it, you complete me. There's this opening inside of us that needs to be filled. But that opening inside, the challenge of the movie didn't say that you complete me should be I complete myself in Jerry Maguire. So what are some self-love practices you could do today that can shift this narrative for you? These are very simple ones. You don't have to do all of this inner work and trauma-based work. You can create simple practices, and I've got a list of them right here for you. Let me share them with you. 25, well, I'll just share with you some of the 25 ways you can love yourself. Say no to something that drains you without guilt. How many times have you felt like you want to say no to something? Maybe you've got invited to a party. Maybe you have a date lined up with someone, but all of a sudden you're not feeling it, but you feel this obligation, a responsibility. One of the fundamental self-love practices is learning to honor your no and be okay with it. I will tell you that a significant percentage of the population, particularly women, have a propensity to be people pleasers. It is not your job to please anyone other than starting to please yourself. If someone is not a reform, if you're a reformed people pleaser, state it. I'm a reformed people pleaser. I know how to say no. Put that in the chat box or the comments. Another self-love principle: speak to yourself like you would to someone you deeply love. In fact, I want to take it a step further. See, self-love is recognizing that we all have an inner 6-year-old inside of us, from an emotional standpoint. Speak to your voice in your head should reflect how you would speak to the 6-year-old version of yourself or any 6-year-old child. Now, sadly, I'm guilty of yelling at my children when they were younger. There's a picture of them right there. I'm not proud of that, yelling and screaming. And I was, I don't want to say abusive, but I have a lot of guilt over the anger I had when they were growing up. And whatever that might carry for them, my hope is they speak, well, my son in Connor is in heaven, so he's speaking to himself with a lot of love. But my son Colin, I hope he speaks to his inner 6-year-old with love. Take a deep breath and check in with how you are feeling. Our feelings, our body is speaking volumes to us. One of the fundamental self-love practices is to pay attention to your feelings. Your feelings are your guide to everything. Now, I don't mean to be a slave to your feelings, but to really pay attention to your body sensation, your emotions, and most importantly, your intuition. We all have a wonderful intuition if we learn how to tap into it. And one of the fundamentals of self-love is to start paying attention to your intuition. Here's something you can do. Write yourself a note of encouragement and actually read it back. Write yourself a note of encouragement. Do you know what I did this morning? And this is the honest to God's truth. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine last night. We were talking about the spark, the magic that can happen on a first date. And I started to recognize that maybe I have felt blocked in this area. So I made a simple mantra. I allow for the magic. I allow for the magic. I'm allowing magic in. It's a simple statement. It's a positive affirmation. I have a list of affirmations on my phone I listen to regularly, and I invite you to incorporate that into your daily life. And these are just some examples that I shared with you today that you can incorporate into your life that can actually make a big difference. Because here's the bottom line. If you're still waiting for someone to make you feel worthy, that's your cue to pause. Let me repeat that. If you're still waiting for someone to make you feel worthy, that is your cue to pause. Do your work first. Learn to love yourself, not about getting the guy or the girl, but because you're finally ready to stop abandoning yourself. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? If it is, please let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what I just shared. Do me a favor. post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. And if you like my videos, hey, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's links to get all the books I recommend, to follow me on Instagram, and also to get my dating vows. You're definitely going to want to get that. Just click the link. It is worth it to get my dating vows. All right. All right, those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box in the corner. Write the word question and then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Aslay. I mentioned him earlier. He's my son who passed away almost 7 years ago. And in his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process, Insight Institute, and scholarships to coaching as well. And our goal today is $50. So listen, I'd appreciate the love. Hey, if 20 of you just donate $2.50, we'll get to that goal today. Okay? All right. All right. I want to share something with you. Okay. I got a message today on one of my Facebook posts, and I want to share it with you because it really relates to self-love. Okay. And the post goes like this. One thing I like about you, Jonathan, is that you're so fucked up, but it's okay to be fucked up because we're all fucked up. You put all your fucked up shit out there for all of us to see. I think if we stopped hiding behind the mask, we are so perfect, and realize that we're all fucked up, we can actually grow. I don't know if you'll ever find a mate. I hope you do. But in the meantime, keep doing what you're doing. I'm still listening, and I'm still viewing, and I'm still fucked up too. Yes, a lot of F-bombs by that person. Why do I want to share this? Because one of the self-love principles that I'm incorporating in my new book is the concept of know thyself. Can someone write that in the chat box? Know thyself. Now, the principle of know thyself is to really a self-reflective, self-love exercise to really look inward from an objective point of view. Now, this is going to take me a few minutes to explain, so you're going to want to take notes. If you're watching this video, pause it, pull out your notebook, and start taking down notes, or rewind this and watch it over and over and over again. So the first self-love principle, at least in my book, and this is in no particular order, is recognize your wounding. Recognize your wounding, particularly in the area of love attachment and the imago, or inner child work. All right, now we're going to start with love attachment. If you haven't read the book Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, I highly recommend reading this so you can understand from a love perspective how you might attach to the wrong person in relationship. Oftentimes what we believe is love when we're connected with another person is an insecure attachment, Now, there's basically two ways to attach, secure and insecure. And within insecure, we can attach from an anxious perspective or an avoidant perspective. And within avoidant, there is fearful avoidant, and then there's dismissive avoidant. So that's a lot to, parse out right there, is understanding, because when you understand and you look back at your past relationships, you might find that you've been attached in an insecure way. As I kind of said earlier, we've indoctrinated this belief that I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. One of the self-love principles in Know Thyself is recognize your love attachment style. And I also said the imago. If you haven't read the book Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt, I highly recommend reading this book. The imago, imaging. This is oftentimes where we choose partners that are similar to both or one either one of our parents or any caretaker in our life. There's a similarity. Many of you ladies have told me you have daddy issues. Many men have mommy issues. Do you hear those words? Daddy issues, mommy issues? That means somewhere in our childhood, we had an experience with our parents, or multiple experience with our parents, mostly our parents. It could be a caretaker as well, that caused us to have a wounding. And then we relive this wounding when it comes to relationships where we choose people like one or both of our parents. And when I mentioned earlier inner child work, coming back to the book, The Hoffman Process, and I know you're going right now, Jonathan, you're just putting book after book after book after book. But I'm doing this because there is a plethora of amazing information that doesn't require you to go to a therapist over and over and over and over again. Not to suggest that therapy coaches can't have great impact on you, but I would say do your homework first. And I know this can seem exhausting, but what's the definition of insanity already? The dating marketplace, the relationship marketplace is so dysfunctional. I jokingly say it's like the Hunger Games. My channel here is just to put the odds in your favor, that inner child work. Principle number 1, and know thyself. Number 2 is self-responsibility. Number 2 is self-responsibility. What is self-responsibility? It's simply this. When I'm triggered, it's no one else's responsibility to manage my feelings but myself. Let me repeat that. When I'm triggered, it's no one else's responsibility to manage my feelings but myself. We here in the United States, we are suckling on the nipple of victim consciousness. I mean, we are suckling on the nipple of victim consciousness. We point the finger anytime we're triggered and we're saying it's your fault. Just remember these little 3 fingers pointing back at you. Taking personal self-responsibility when I'm triggered is no one else's responsibility to manage my feelings but myself, just like Jade has just posted right here. Thank you so much for that. All right. Another principle is self-awareness. Now, this is a complicated principle to unpack, but we're going to do it right now. And I'm reading from my notes, so bear with me. Self-awareness is recognizing one's fears and insecurities, negative judgments of others, how our actions affect others, our limiting beliefs, our negative patterns that bring pain, and the ability to shift to love when in emotional pain. Let me repeat that. Self-awareness. And I'm going to say this slowly if you want to write this down. Self-awareness is the recognizing of one's fears and insecurities, our negative judgments of others, how our actions affect other people, our limiting beliefs, our negative patterns that bring us pain. And self-awareness, when you have the awareness of this, you have the ability to shift to love when you're in emotional pain. This is a complicated thing to master. This is an incredibly complicated thing to master. I want you to envision this. Your life is like a play. Okay, your life is like a play. You're at a Broadway show, and you're standing on the stage, right? That's your life. Okay. Self-awareness is the person in the audience. That's you watching your life unfold from an objective point of view. I mean, I swear to you, we here in the United States in particular, we are suckling on the nipple of victim consciousness. And we blame most everybody else for the lot in our life in so many different facets. Genuine self-love, genuine know thyself is taking ownership of self-awareness. Number 4, we know our weaknesses. You know what? I've shared this publicly. I'm coming back to the original compliment or the comment about Jonathan, you're so fucked up, you wear your heart on the sleeve kind of person. But I know my weakness. I'm terrible at international travel. Do you know, from a dating perspective, every woman's dating profile is, do you have a passport? Will you travel? Do you have a passport? Will you travel? Do you have a passport? Will you travel? And I'm like, I'm not good at it. I'm just not good at it. I struggle when I'm in environments that I don't feel safe. It's just something I struggle with. Now, 9 out of 10 times, you won't see the inner turmoil going on inside of me. I actually can hold it together fairly well on the outside. But inside, I am a gigantic mess. And God forbid there's a delay of flight, then I'm really screwed. My point is I know this about myself. I know this. I know my weaknesses. I'm also a terrible social director in a romantic relationship. It's better if I'm with somebody who's good at planning things. I'm just not good at it. Now, I know you could say, well, Jonathan, just tough it out and get good at all these things. I'm really good at the emotional container of a relationship. I know what my strengths are too. But know your weaknesses. In fact, are you willing to write down right now in the comments below or in the chat box something that you will own right now that's a weakness? And we use the term weakness. It's not really a weakness. It's just a facet of your personality or who you are. As Jade says right here, know your weakness. By the way, Jade was kind of us to put number 3. Self-awareness, recognizing one's fears, insecurities, our negative judgments of others, how our actions affect others, how it brings us pain, also our limiting beliefs and negative patterns as well. All right, know our weaknesses. Number 5, taking ownership of our past relationships. Do you realize that most people I'm going to repeat that. Taking ownership of our past relationships. By the way, this know thyself principle is predominantly in the area of romantic love, taking ownership of our past relationships. Do you know how many people in the dating marketplace in the over 45 category? By the way, my area of expertise is what I call midlife, which is after baby making years and before retirement. I just want you to know I'm your big brother out in the dating marketplace. Ladies, if you're going out on a date with a guy, I'm the guy there with the shotgun pointed at his face going, what's your intentions with my little sister? That's who I am as your big brother. But I want you to take ownership of your past relationships. What does that look like? Do you know how many people do this? It was her fault. It was his fault. It was her fault. It was his fault. It was her fault. It was his fault. Do you know most everybody I've ever dated has completely thrown their previous partner under the bus? I mean, I don't know how many narcissists. By the way, it seems like every woman on the planet dates the 2% of the actual narcissists that exists. And I recognize a lot of you could have had a real pain from narcissistic abuse. So I'm not diminishing that. But my point is if you can't take 3% ownership on your part, that's not a healthy self-love. And I will take 50% ownership of what happened in my marriage. I'm saying it out loud. I was a jackass husband. I was an unconscious human being then. I mean, to some degree, I'll take more than 50%, but she had her shit too. So I'm not going to take 100% of it, but taking ownership of your past relationships. These are just some of the principles within the know thyself. I think one of the fundamental principles in know thyself is recognizing your relationship readiness. Relationship readiness. Relationship readiness is the following. Relationship readiness is the following. It's where your desire, capacity, and vision for a relationship. Let me repeat that. Your desire, your capacity, and your vision for a relationship exceeds your past hurts. Exceeds the past hurts. In other words, when you genuinely want a relationship and you've built the skills to be in relationship and you have a vision for commitment, it exceeds your past hurts. You see, remember I said earlier, taking ownership of your past relationships? Many people are still hurting from past relationships. And while they might desire a relationship, their capacity is weak. While they might have a vision for a relationship, their capacity is weak. It's when our desires, our capacity, and our vision exceeds our past hurts. And when we can push past that, we become relationship ready. By the way, one of the other fundamental principles of know thyself starts with victor consciousness. As I said earlier in this conversation, we are swimming in the sea of victim consciousness. Victor consciousness is about taking ownership of every aspect of your life. And that doesn't mean that bad things might not happen to you. Bad things are going to happen. It's just part of life. But you take ownership of it. You don't wallow in it. You're not crawled up in a ball for 6 years drinking alcohol or doing drugs to numb the pain. You taking ownership of your life through victor consciousness. A couple other things include, here I have notes, developing your relationship skills. I've laid out a gazillion books that can help you with relationship skills. As I said earlier, to develop your relationship skill, I highly recommend reading this book, How to Be an Adult in Relationship. Knowing your must-haves and your deal breakers, knowing your must-haves and deal breakers. And last but not least, know your purpose in life. What does your inner compass say? What's your life direction? What's your purpose? If you don't have an idea of what that is, at least to some degree, then why are you showing up for life? And also, when it comes to romantic relationship, is identify the container of the relationship and what's the purpose of the relationship. You know, as I said earlier, when I was younger, the purpose was to go to college, meet someone, get married, buy a house, start a family. It was easy in my 20s and 30s to know my purpose. But for those of us in midlife, the purpose of a relationship, not just the purpose in life, but a purpose in relationship, can be rather ambiguous. Other than companionship, connection, and sex. But if you don't have it in the container of commitment, it can be a wobbly kind of seesaw. And in many cases, people struggle. So coming back to know thyself and coming back to this post, Jonathan, you're so fucked up. I am unafraid to share my vulnerabilities. Why? It's because I have a healthy dose of self-love, which is self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-reliance, self-discipline. You know what? I mean, sticks and stones may break my bones, but whatever people say about me can't hurt me. I mean, well, I will say, I mean, to some degree, you can be trolled and it can be painful. I get that piece. But I'm here to say, when we embody know thyself, when we really embody that know myself narrative within ourselves, know thyself, you become a powerful magnetic attractor for what you seek in romantic relationships. And that's my invitation for everybody today. And again, thank you for that comment. I really appreciate it. And by the way, when we can all laugh at our peculiarities, when we can all laugh at our dysfunctionalities, when we can all laugh at our picadillos, as Robin Williams said in Good Will Hunting, I think we actually live a life of greater peace internally. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. I'd like to hear what you think about what I just shared. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's links to follow me on Instagram, all that good stuff listed below. Even Nicole says, every Jonathan I've ever met is a good egg. So have a great day. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Nicole. Even Julianne says 100% to everything I shared. Thanks so much for that, Julianne. I appreciate that. All right, we have more questions. Oh, by the way, if anyone wants to join the Love Seat, come on, join me live. Let's have a conversation. This might be fun. I did notice earlier, I saw that Annika posted a question, but I'll get to you in a second. Cheryl posted a question. Question. I feel relatively confident, yet still feel sad that I don't get verbal appreciation or admiration from my partner. Is that a valid need, or should I be sourcing it myself? Well, excuse me, I wanted to take a drink. I love this question. So to some degree, you are correct. We should be sourcing it ourselves. But should is a dangerous word. So ideally, when we feel that within ourselves, but I'm going to be candid with you. You know, I think romantic relationships should embody the following 4 A's. The 4 A's. I'm going to take this down, Cheryl. Attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. Attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. So let's unpack that for a moment, Cheryl. Attention, to be present to one another. Like to be present to one another, to be a witness in your life, not on your phone while you're at a romantic dinner, not worrying about what's happening, to be present to your partner. And when I talk about these 4 A's, I didn't make this up. I learned this from others. Attention is really about presence, to be present to this person. Affection. I think we need to feel. We need to feel from our partner. We need to feel the touch, to feel that embodiment of touch, to not just sexual touch, but just hugging you just out of the blue for no reason. And I mean, this goes both ways. Men, any men who are watching this, you don't get a pass just because you pay the bills in the relationship. You know, we've been indoctrinated in this narrative for men to be hyper-focused on providing, protecting, but providing from the heart, protecting the emotions. I'm going to repeat that, providing the heart and protecting emotions. That's what matters more. Men, if you're listening to this, affection, it is about touching your partner, not from just a pure obligatory perspective, but from a genuine, I desire you perspective. Appreciation, coming back to your question, admiration, appreciation, verbal admiration, like we should smother our partner with appreciation. We should smother our partner with appreciation. That should be a daily multivitamin, to just immerse with verbal appreciation and admiration. I mean, when you think of how many couples just don't have any attraction for one another, it's because they stopped admiring each other. You should look, I mean, here's the thing I learned after losing my child. Don't take anything for granted. Please don't take your partner for granted. Yes, Cheryl, you deserve verbal appreciation and admiration. And lastly, acceptance. Acceptance is just recognizing, look, we're not perfect beings. Now, when I say acceptance, that doesn't mean to accept bad behavior. Bad behavior is something that needs to be worked on. But genuine acceptance is like this is the fundamental principle. There's a saying, men marry women hoping they don't change, and women marry men hoping they do change. It's, folks, you have to accept your partner the way they are, you know, warts and all. We're not perfect beings, but genuine love is attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. And when we can embody that, we will find ourselves in a much happier, richer relationship. Is that sinking in with you? Is that resonating? Hey, I want to hear your thoughts on Cheryl's question. I'll post it again right here. How do you feel about how I answered it? Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. Thanks so much. All right, Annika's in the house. Annika's in the house. Question, what do you recommend to me more present with ourselves and our partner in the relationship? Well, I'm going to give you an exercise. It doesn't really illustrate your question perfectly, Annika, but it does kind of hopefully illustrate this a little bit for you. So there's an exercise that's called, what's it called? I'm aware of. And it requires sitting out on a bench somewhere in a park or someplace out in nature and just be present to what's happening. And then to say things like, I'm aware of the leaves rustling. I'm aware of the wind on my face. I'm aware of the cool breeze along my clothing. I'm aware my nose tickles right now because there's a fan right there. That's how we become present, or at least this is a principle I learned on how to become present. So you might want to try that exercise, Annika. I'm not suggesting it's the end all be all per se, but you may want to try that exercise, okay? All right, let me see. By the way, I want to give props to first Debbie for the $20 super sticker. Thank you for the love. And Julianne just gave us a $10 super sticker. When I get in relationship, men use personal info I've shared against me. Just broke up with a man after a year, and he's throwing my shared vulnerability in my face. It makes me not want to share. Oh, that is so sad. And this is just an insecurity on their part. It's an insecurity on their part. It's a control piece. I mean, I don't know all of the behavioral components of it, but let's focus on your feelings of being reluctant to be vulnerable, that it can be used against us. This is where trust comes in. What is trust? What is trust? Trust, the way I heard it, I was watching a podcast, and the way I heard about trust is when the other person's best interest or your best interest. That might be an easier way. What's good for them is good for me, kind of thing. And so if that's not good for you, that's not trust. And so I believe before we open ourselves up to emotional intimate with someone, we have to build some level of trust. This is why know thyself is such an important principle. And by the way, in the narrative of know thyself I talked about earlier, don't you want to be with someone else that knows themselves? See, when someone knows themselves, they're probably done a fair amount of inner work that they wouldn't want. Like, one of the principles of self-awareness is how our actions affect another human being. How our action, wait, what was that? Here, let's pull it up because Cheryl posted it. Wait, she posted, where is it? Oh, wait, just bear with me. Shoot, please forgive me. Can't find it. Anyway, my point is how our actions, and by the way, I'm very sorry that you experienced that, Julianne. I understand that, and I can understand why you might be reluctant, but just recognize that first build substantial trust before you open your heart to someone else. And thank you for that question. I appreciate it. Also, I want to give props to Annika for the $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. All right. Let's keep going here. I saw another question come up. By the way, is anyone going to be brave enough to join the love seat? I'd appreciate it. Ariel is in the house. Can a widower move on with a new relationship when he is going through grief and sometimes he feels like he's cheating on his late wife? Oh, that's a great question. Well, first off, yes, they can absolutely move on. I mean, many people have had lost a spouse and have moved on from it. So that's, to answer your question, yes. But the fact that he feels like cheating on his late wife. So relationship readiness is a function of desire, capacity, and vision exceeds the past hurts. If he is still hurting from his past relationship, then his capacity is not, he's not capable of being in a relationship until he's healed that hurt. Going to grief counseling, doing inner child work, doing adult trauma work, all of these things can help better prepare you for a relationship. But if he's done no work to heal, the narrative time heals all wounds. Well, that could take 30 years to heal that wound. I'm being tongue in cheek for a moment, but he's got to be willing to do the work, Oh, Julianne goes, oh, wait, I'm sorry. So anyway, I would say he's got to do the work before he's actually ready for a relationship. Julianne points out, thank you. I have a call with you this week. Well, that's nice to know. I'm excited about that. By the way, if anyone wants to connect with me, here, where's my link? You can, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Under just schedule a discovery call. It looks like Julianne has done that, so I'm excited about that. Jeanette wants to know love seat. What's that? Okay, Jeanette, I just posted a link right in the chat box. You can simply click that link and we can have a conversation right now, live on camera for everyone to see. If you're brave enough, I would recommend you join and we can have a conversation, okay? Diane says, I've had this happen piss me off. You are broken up. You broke up with who? And it's a surprise. He was a dick by throwing that back at you. I'm assuming we're coming back to the post about person using stuff against you. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a reflection of the character of the person you're with. And honestly, it kind of says a lot that person, well, I mean, I want you to look back at the relationship and ask yourself, was he a good man from day one? I'm curious. I'd be curious to know about that. All right. Ariel says, great answer. As always, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Going back to the comment that I'm fucked up. Okay. I laugh at it because it actually plays into my style of communication. I've always said we're all fucked up. It's just a matter of degrees. Okay. But the reality is most of us are good people. Most men, most women, they're good people. We're just bad at this stuff. We really are. I mean, you have to look at the insanity of relationships. When you look at the divorce rate as a barometer to this, I think it was James Sexton. Where's his book? James Sexton's book. He's an attorney, How to Stay in Love, but he's an attorney. He's a divorce attorney that says that marriage as a technology marriage is a faulty technology. What he means to say is, I think human pair bonding, we are just really bad at that. We are really bad at that. Okay. We're just really bad at that. So, hey, we have Kanetta. It looks like your device isn't working. I'm going to kick you out and I want you to try it again. Looks like you want to join. So I'll kick you out of the studio and I want you to try it again. Your device isn't working properly, but I'd like to, I'll stay on for a few minutes waiting for you. Be interesting to have a conversation with you. So again, if anyone wants to join the Love Seat, this is where you can talk to me directly. And I think we'll have a good time. We'll have some fun, all that stuff. So give it one more try, okay? All right, if anyone has a question, write the word question and post the question thereafter. All right, we're going to give it another minute. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up a little early because we have a bashful group tonight. What is going on? To be really fair, humans didn't really live past 30 and 40 until recently. We weren't as evolved to stay in relationships for that long. An interesting observation. That's probably true. I believe Henry VIII lived to be 56. And I'm just thinking of him because he probably had he had doctors and had some of the best care. This was around the 1500s of England. But yeah, probably, I mean, people did live longer than 40 and 50. That's certainly the case. Past 30 and 40, but to some degree, cave people didn't live that long. Much younger periods of time, probably 100 plus years ago. That is true. So now we have to learn. I think that's the evolution of relationships. I think we're in a relationship drought because we are evolving as human beings. And I think the next evolution is learning genuine relationship skills. That's why we get a barrage of it on Instagram and TikTok and, YouTube and all that stuff. Oh, and Julianne points out, I just feel after 40, everyone is set in their ways and it's harder to bend. Or blend, great point. I think as we age, we groove our lives, and women oftentimes have to be the compromisers. Women oftentimes pretzel themselves to men, and men are the ones who are rather rigid. I believe that to be a genuine case. Now, there's always exceptions to that rule, but I think women oftentimes are the ones who have to bend or blend. Because men can be radically rigid as they age. They can be radically rigid. But I'm agreeing with you 1,000%, Julianne. That is certainly one of the challenges for those of us in midlife. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. Listen, LOL. Jeanette says, stay through thick and thin. Grass isn't greener on the other side. Exactly. Hey, if you found value in this conversation, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, again, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Follow me on Instagram. Get all the books I recommend. Everything is listed below. And I hope you found value in this conversation, why the right relationship won't make you happy. All right, we're going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, or pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Julianne and Cindy and Jeanette and Raz and Ariel. And certainly I want to give props to Annika. And again, Julianne. And I want to give props to Debbie for the $20 super sticker. Thank you so much for the love. We so appreciate you. And I'm noticing at the clock in this very second, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Oh, wait a minute. Looks like Lynn is joining us, or LM is joining us. Hey.
Hello.
Ah, well, I was literally logging off, so you're catching me at the last minute. So what's going on? What's your question?
I just thought I would join the chat. I just saw your live thing here, so
yeah,
I like your show.
You call it a show, huh?
Your video. I really don't like the live chat, but I don't know how many people is here and how many is listening to me. But the relationship thing, it is really, like, I just turned 62. I can't believe how bad it has been. I've moved to different states. I'm a veteran. I'm a lady that's been out there. I've got it together. I've worked on myself, and I mean, no kids, no husband. It's totally unbelievable. Everything. And
Well,
you're
are you open? Are you open to unpacking that and having a conversation about it?
I don't have anything to hide. I mean, this is free, isn't it? It's open discussion.
Yeah, it's open discussion. This is live. It's recorded, so just so you know, I mean, it's out in the universe. So, communicate at your own risk kind of thing. So let's talk about what you just said, because I think what I'm hearing, for lack of a better word, it's a shit show out there from a dating perspective, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that you had moved in a few things. So let's start with, when was your last relationship?
Oh gosh, when I was in Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, and that was probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your last relationship was
7. Yeah.
Okay. 7 to 10 years ago. Okay. And your last relationship, where did you two meet?
We met at a karaoke club.
Karaoke club. Okay. So kind of walk us through, you were doing karaoke, he was doing karaoke, I'm assuming, and you just connected there, right?
He walked up to me, took my hand and said, I want you to sing this song with me. And well, I was going to be moving from Las Vegas, and I told him that, but
yeah. Did you tell him that right then and there?
Well, I probably told him that early. I don't know if it was that first time when we met, that first night or not, but I did tell him that I was going to be planning on moving. I was not staying in Vegas.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you met him at karaoke, and he grabbed your hand, and you got singing. You started singing. When was your first date from after that first meeting?
Everything went fast. I had another guy that I really liked that kind of ghosted me, and I wondered what had happened to him. And that was probably 6 months before that. And he was supposed to take me out on a date, and that never happened. And then come to find was working at a strip bar, and I just never heard from him again. So
okay, so let's go back to the karaoke guy. So you said it went fast. Does that mean you guys slept together really fast too?
We did. I kind of did that time with him just to kind of
Clear the cobwebs?
heal the pain from the last one. Yeah.
Okay.
It was kind of
Okay.
like
So would
it was
you
just the
say
best thing at the time. Yeah.
okay, so was that a healthy thing for you to do, an unhealthy thing for you to do?
Well, he wound up not being a person I could stay with, and another person I needed to move on from because he was emotionally unhealthy, which
Okay, but for
he
before we go there, I just want to go back to you entered into the relationship. It sounds like you knew you went in too fast. Even if he's driving the bus, you were going along with the ride, is right?
right,
Do
right.
you take ownership of your part of moving too fast?
I did not have to go along with him, but and I probably wouldn't have, but I did for those reasons, just
Okay.
needing to forget about the other guy. And I
Okay.
figured it probably wouldn't work out with us. I figured it wouldn't.
Okay. So let's keep going here for a second. All right. So you began a relationship with them, but there were some issues in the relationship, correct? And then how long
Correct.
did the relationship last?
I went longer with him than I even wanted to go. It was it turned out to be a toxic relationship, about 7 months. And then
7
I
months.
told him I was to move on. He was not listening to my concerns about him talking. He started talking with his ex 3 months into the relationship,
Okay.
and we were having a sexual relationship. We were regularly seeing each other, and all the time we were together. And I was giving him all my time, even though I was going to move. I wanted it to work. I
Yeah.
did, but he had been married 5 times,
Okay. So,
so
well, let's pause there for a second. You've been married 5 times. Did you even at any moment before? I mean, did you know that before you were physically intimate with him?
I don't know if it was before or not because it was so long ago. I kind of wanted to put him out of my mind, but it does hurt when you have to every time you have to move on from somebody. But I always give every relationship my best. I try to communicate with them, and then when they don't seem like they are concerned or care about to listen, and
Yeah.
he snapped at me when I mentioned to him it was not going to be good for our relationship if he was going to be talking to his ex-girlfriend that he had slept with, before. It
Yeah.
was not just
Well, but I want
I
to go
said,
back to this. I know, and please forgive me for interrupting. So I want to go back to you. You were aware very early on he'd been married 5 times. Does that give you any pause to go, I wonder why someone's been married 5 times? I mean, did you stop in that moment and go, maybe I want to find out why they've had 5 separate marriages? I mean, did you do that at all?
yeah, I asked him why, he said, I don't hold it against me that but I've been married 5 times. I said, I won't, but why were you married 5 times? I said, it depends on somebody's actions and how they are doing things. Not, I'm not going to look at that. But he blamed it on the women. I mean, he just, he said,
Okay, so one of the self-love principles that I want to share that I shared in the longer part of this video, but I want to share that, and I'm now talking to everybody, LM. Okay, folks, when you are talking to someone new and they say, I've been married 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, okay? Or they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relationships, which the average person in midlife, anyone over 50 years old, there's a good chance have had 3 significant relationships. If it always is the other person's fault, if it's the other person's fault, they were an alcoholic, they were a drug addict, they were a cheater, they were a narcissist, I don't care what the fault is. If it's always the other person's fault, that's a gigantic, as Julianne just puts here. Someone put up like 15 red flags in the chat box. That is like a glaring siren going off. Nini, 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 nini. That's a siren. And quite frankly, red flag means ask more questions. But quite frankly, I'm here to encourage everyone to look at it as a deal breaker, because that probably tells us, oh, here's Julianne. She did it for us. Okay. That tells us red flag, red flag, red flag. is that that person probably doesn't take ownership of their part in the relationship, that they have weak relationship skills. And I'm just suggesting, again, you didn't know this, LM, but I'm just suggesting for everyone who's listening from this point on. Okay, let's move on. You knew about his 5 marriages. You still accepted him. It was a toxic relationship. It was 7, 8 months. You moved on. That happened 7 years ago. Okay, let's walk us through your dating history from this point going forward.
I have tried to get out. I've tried the dating sites. It just seems
Right.
like there's not much going on there. I just alleviated another person that was on the Christian dating site who was saying he was a Christian, but we were supposed to meet one time, and then he came up with a toothache. We had been texting for months and talked on the phone a few times. When somebody doesn't want to meet you, that's a red flag. I mean, I know there's red flags with people, and I move on, but I don't just jump and move on and jump with people. I did kind of move fast with that one guy for that one reasoning, and I figured it wouldn't last, and I
Yeah.
saw the red flags. But
Okay, so let's go back to, okay, but I want to help you, okay, because you feel a bit disillusioned about the dating marketplace. And I understand that. By the way, I mean, the reality is, the reason why I call it the dating marketplace, I mean, I know that doesn't sound very romantic and sexy, but that's kind of what we're in, primarily because of our devices. 65% of all new couples are meeting through a dating site or app. Okay. So, one of the challenges with online dating, LM, is that I will tell you that roughly 95% of the dating profiles by men and women, and it's really probably closer to 98%, is that they're so poorly done. The quality of the photographs, the quality of the way they ask the questions. And by the way, I'm putting you in this category of 98%. I suspect if I looked at your dating profile, number one, it was probably poorly curated. Just put that in a box for a second. So when we have poor effort by human beings, we're going to get poor results. Okay. So just so you know that. Okay. This is one of the reasons why, as a dating and relationship coach, one of the fundamentals of every dating and relationship coach is our job is to help you curate the most quality profile that gets better results. Okay. So I just want you to put that in a box for a second. You said you communicated with someone for several months and then he didn't initiate a date. How far away did he live from you?
well, he lived in Charleston, and that was like an hour and a half away, which I didn't
Okay.
feel was too bad. And so I was ready to see where it would go. I originally told him at the beginning it was kind of far, but we could try it. So I said
Okay.
we'll have to see if we could get to know each other and meet. I said that's how meeting and spending time is what we need to do. So we were
Yeah.
supposed to meet. I stopped talking to him for a while and we fell out of touch, and we just got back in touch again because I was going to be moving again. But then things settled down, and I met back up with him again through texting, and I said we need to meet, because that's how and spend time together. That's how we're gonna
Yeah.
really know. So we were supposed to meet that next day, but then he came up with a toothache. So I said, okay. To me,
Okay.
that was a red
So,
flag.
so I want to jump in for a moment. And Julianne just points out he wanted a pen pal, not a romantic interest. So I have a simple rule of thumb to follow, and I'm sharing with everybody and for you. It's called 3, 2, 1, 3. 3, 2, 1, 3. Okay. When you connect with somebody who you could probably physically meet within an hour or an hour and a half away. In other words, your drive isn't more than about 50 miles. Okay. If that's the case, you'd simply have 3 email exchanges or text exchanges, depending on what platform you met. That is to generate 1 or 2 phone calls. So 3 text message exchange, move it to a phone call, 1 to 2 phone calls, and to 1 date, all in a 3-week period. And I'm going to do it this way, in a 3-week period. So
Mhm.
1 to 2 phone calls. okay? And one date within a 3-week period, okay?
Mhm.
Within 3 weeks, you should meet. If anything longer than that, just say next. If somebody is
Yeah.
so busy, okay, you
Yeah.
are on a dating platform to meet people. That's the purpose of being on a dating platform. It's
Right.
not about getting to know them per se. I mean, sure, you want to feel comfortable and you want to maybe spend a couple hours talking just to determine compatibility, but immediately meet because you don't want someone to waste your time. So, coming back to this gentleman, he blew you off. Okay. You still seem disillusioned with dating. It sounds like you've almost given up. Is that right?
Well, it seems like I need to keep moving on from people because they don't show that they're really relationship material. They don't come through or they do something and it's like I need to move on. But we were supposed to meet again. The guy said he thought we had a lot in common. You know, we had the same interests. He said he was wanting to get married. I said, well, let's wait. uh, Let's not talk about that right now. But he was saying that he wanted to find someone to marry. He was a widow, you know, he had a kid. The kid was grown up. I said, well, let's meet and see where it goes, you know. And he kept doing the love words, and to me, that was a red flag from the beginning.
Okay. So let me ask you a question, and this is going to be a really tough question, and I'm sorry that I'm going to have to be harsh for a moment. Okay. Are we okay, cool with that?
That's sure, that's fine, but it seems like there's something dysfunctional with every. I mean, for so
Yeah, but
long,
by the way, but I'm going to jump in here and you're going to have a hard time accepting what I'm going to say. Okay. Have you looked in the mirror at your own dysfunction?
I believe in communication, and that's what I do with people, and I don't feel like I'm.
I'm going to repeat the question. Have you looked in the mirror at you said other people are dysfunctional. Have you looked at the mirror of your own dysfunction?
Yeah, I'm not. I deal with my issues. I don't have kids, and I don't have a marriage. I don't have healing that I need to do. I try to communicate with people. I'm seeing closed doors with like
Okay.
everywhere.
Okay.
I do look at myself, but I don't see that I'm doing anything wrong. I really don't.
Well, let me give you an example of something. You knew very early on, you had a chance when that relationship we were talking about, the one that man was married 5 times, you knew very early on that something was amiss in this relationship, but you kept staying in. That's not martyrdom. I mean, you know, that's the way you can look at it, but that's a reflection of a lack of self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love within yourself. If you watched the bulk of this video that I shot, it's all centered around learning to love yourself, because the best relationship you're ever going to have is the relationship within yourself. So, you know, I'm inviting you to possibly take a break from dating and relationships 100% and start really working on yourself. You might think you're good at these things, but you're not but every time you find yourself in a circumstance, you accept behavior that's unacceptable, saying it's their fault, but then you have to ask yourself, why are you even accepting this behavior? That's the piece I want you to look at. I invite you to look at your past relationships. Were you ever
Yeah,
married in your time in your life?
no, but there was people I could have married, but I moved on because I mean, different reasonings. I mean, they weren't relationship material. They were not con
So then let
people
me
that
ask you a question. Why do you think you're a magnet for people who are not relationship material?
I stayed with that guy longer than the 3 months. After the 3 months, that's when I noticed. At the 3 month mark was when I noticed the phone call from the ex girlfriend. When he had told me at the beginning, he did, when I asked him, "Do you have anyone in your life?" and he said no, and he then at the 3 month point, we was in the car and he got the phone call and he said, "This is my from my ex girlfriend," and I was like, "Well, you told me." I confronted him after, you know, I said, "You told me you didn't have anyone in your life." He said he didn't. And then when I told him that was not going to be good for us, I told him that I didn't want
So,
him talking to her, and he was not going to stop talking to her. But I went on another few months with him because I was fixing to move, and he was helping me do painting in my.
yeah,
I had high cathedral ceilings in my house. That's
yeah.
the only reason why I went another 4 months with him. I would have broke up with him then.
Okay. So I want to share with you, LM, and this was a video I did some years ago, probably about 5 years ago, was 7 ways women give their power away. And one of the ways they give a power away to a man is the relationship is on the man's terms. They abandon their standards and their boundaries. One of the fundamental principles of self-love is to really stick to your boundaries and your standards. And it sounds to me that throughout your relationship history, you abandon your boundaries, you abandon your standards, and you put the relationship on a man's terms. Okay. Number 2, you're afraid to speak your truth. Now, I suspect it sounds like you spoke your truth in these relationships, you spoke up. But when you spoke up, you abandoned your boundaries every single time, whether because they would either make excuses of some sort, and that's an abandonment of boundaries. Now, I will tell you one of the ways I notice women give their power away is when the relationship ends, they always focus on the man and not themselves. They are not nurturing themselves. Even in this dialogue right now, it's always about him. Genuine self-love, self-empowerment is always looking at what I could have done. What could I have done? Not to fix the relationship. What could I have done to set a better boundary? What could I have done to establish my standard? What could I have done? And to look inward, that's a self-love practice. But again, when it's focused on the man, that's giving your power away. Waiting for a man to initiate contact, to initiate the relationship, that's a very common thing women oftentimes do, needing excessive validation. Stop doing the life that you had before you met him, feeling like you can't live without him. I don't think that's something that you felt, but a lot of women, they give their power away by feeling like that's the only man that will ever love them, or thinking that's the only person in the universe that you'll have chemistry with. This is just some common ways women give their power away to men. I think in your case, and this is my invitation for you, this is my invitation for you, is to really look at your past relationships and examine your standards and your boundaries. And before you ever put yourself out in the dating marketplace, is to really embody that self-love practice, that inner sovereignty within yourself, that you won't accept bad behavior because you have this is not the first time you've experienced that. So there might be something within yourself that's causing you. And as Julianne says here in a comment, I feel the older we get, we make excuses for our boundaries list. I'll let that one slide. There's not too much out there at my age. And I'm here to encourage you, LM, to embody your sovereignty, to embody your power. And when you do that, you might find that a man will meet you where you're at. Does that resonate with you at all?
Well, didn't think that men was this bad, and I didn't want to think that, but they are. And I've just decided that going from now on, I am not.
So by the way, am I a bad man?
No, I think that
You
women
just said
should.
men. So you know what? I took that personally.
No,
I just want you to know
no,
when you said that, I took that
no,
personally.
no,
And by the way, I'm
no,
not
no.
that sensitive. I'm only pointing this out. Be very careful. Be very careful with your languaging. When you say things like that, then every man that you meet will be that. One of the self-love principles that I talk about and I teach incessantly is to adopt the philosophy that it's raining great men, it's raining great men, it's raining great men. I'm inviting you to take that in for yourself and to say that there are a lot of amazing men out there. I just interviewed a couple last week on my channel, a great guy. I meet great men out there all the time. So I'm inviting you to shift your languaging right now, today. There are great men out there. If all you see is bad men, If I said to you, get on, I don't know where you live, but if I said red Toyota truck, you might see 1,000 red Toyota trucks because I plant it in your head. I'm inviting you to plant the seed. There are great men out there. Will you do that for me? Will you do that one thing for me?
Yes, I just think that I'm not going to let myself get involved sexually with anybody else until, I'm married. I've decided that. I mean, it's been one thing after another, and then you have sex with these people, and or they get you into having sex with. I mean, the one guy, he just pulled me down into the bed. I mean, and it was just like that with the guy before this last one. But
Well, I'm
you know,
here to say, and we're going to wrap up in a moment, okay, LM? Let me just say this: set your standards, establish your boundaries, which you just did,
ma'am.
and just cultivate a real, true self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-reliance, self-love practice for yourself. Will you do that for me?
I definitely am. I definitely like myself, and
Okay.
I'm a strong woman. I'm a veteran, and I'm retired, and I have morals and integrity, and I just don't want garbage. I'm not going to settle for less.
Okay.
I'm not,
Well,
and I
can I
don't.
reach into the camera and give you a big hug?
Yes, you can. Yes, you
All
can.
right,
I
LM. Thanks
thank
for
you.
being on. Okay.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for being
Appreciate
on.
you.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you. Appreciate you. Oh, sorry. I cut her off too soon. You know, LM was very sweet and she shared something very vulnerable. But I do want to point out, as she was sharing, I don't believe she's really taking ownership of her part in her past relationship. So I can understand her frustration with the dating game. I can understand her frustration out there. Yes, it can feel like the Hunger Games out there. But the most important principle that we talked about was the importance of setting your standards right from the get go. Do a real vetting process of people. So when they say to you something like, I've been married 5 times, and letting that slide, that's really a glaring red flag, red flag, red flag, as Maria just voiced to hear, red flag, red flag, red flag. And also to establish her boundaries. And that's and then lastly, to change her languaging. There are great men out there. Yes, there are a lot of men who are not very good people. And there's a lot of women that aren't good people. But I think in her particular case, the most important message, I'm inviting her to really look inward and say, how can I make better choices? How can I take ownership of my part in these relationships? And how can I cultivate a very strong self love within myself, that self worth, self esteem, self confidence, and set those standards and boundaries? Because when you set those standards and boundaries, and you invite in, it's raining great men, it's raining great men, it's raining great men, she might find herself in a circumstance that might bring her some joy. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this conversation. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's links to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's links to get my dating vows, and all the books I recommend are listed below. All right, we're going to wrap up this video with a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank everyone that donated, Annika, Julianne, and Debbie, as well as Lisa and Jade, and certainly LM for being brave to be on. We want to give you a lot of big props and hugs. Thanks so much. Everyone, wishing you all a super duper wonderful evening. Be well. Thanks. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Oh, LM says, I'm off the dating site show for now. Okay, there we go. And B says, thank you, LM. Thank you, Jonathan. All right, everyone, wishing you a wonderful evening. Be well. Thanks. Bye-bye now.